evening, gents, and happy Friday. Welcome back to the Trauma Club that we like to call DEGREELESSNESS, where we force you to confront the realities of the nightmarish corpo institution known otherwise as the modern video game industry. I know it's painful, but apparently somebody has to do it, and that someone, of course, is me, Shanghai Pete, your good buddy in the mix, reluctant but intrepid hero. A few things have been popping recently, so let's go ahead, get deep inside. Why not? Just time for a quick recap of the week, which was dominated by news of Starfield and Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. And let's talk about Starfield first, because I have the least amount to say about that, and because we got to see a whole shitload of it recently, courtesy of the Xbox Showcase, which itself was so sad that this is really the only thing worth commenting about, at least that I'm aware of. And now, guys, when it comes to Starfield, I'm really going to only say this once. It looks awesome. It does. I'm not even going to try to hate on it. There's no reason to, because it looks sick as fuck. That being said, it is equally important to remember that Starfield, as awesome as it does look right now, is also a Bethesda game. What does that mean? Well, it means that it's probably going to be fucking garbage. Remember the lessons of the past. Don't believe his lies. Indeed. I hope it's fucking good, though. How awesome would that be? Good Bethesda game, you know? Last time we got a truly good Bethesda game, people are still fucking playing it, and that was back in 2012, so who knows? Let's hope. Next, also kind of filed under the category we have no reason to believe that this will be good, but damn, I hope it is of course the Cyberpunk 2077 expansion, Phantom Liberty. The saddest part about this game, and like I've mentioned it before probably every time I talk about Cyberpunk, the saddest part about that whole thing is that it's actually really good. If you played it like a year or so after it was released and were lucky enough not to encounter any game-breaking bugs and were able to play all the way through to the end, yeah, it was really great. Unfortunately, this game was a victim of its and its studio's own success. They hyped it up so much for so long that at the point it was finally released, even if it had been one of the later builds that came out a year or so afterwards, it was destined to disappoint. There was simply no alternative. When you advertise something as God's fucking orgasm, anything less, no matter how fucking sick it is gonna end up pissing some people off. Obviously, no less when it's a buggy catastrophe. So what we're left with here is a relatively dope IP that's been poisoned beyond any hope of redemption. No matter how sick Phantom Liberty looks, and it does look fucking sick, that poison's just never going away. In a way, I kind of fuck with CDPR. You gotta give them a little credit for still continuing to try to save the Cyberpunk brand, though I'm sure it's more for monetary reasons than for any actual care about their fans. A good X-Pack is just not gonna wipe out our collective memory of one of the most disastrous game launches literally of all time. So I'm sorry, CDPR. And believe it or not, it's a real bummer, because from what we've been hearing, Phantom Liberty completely overhauls like the entire game. From how you level up to talent specs, NPC AI, the police system, combat, literally just about everything has been overhauled and improved. So it looks like it's gonna be awesome. It's just a shame for everybody that likely no one will ever find that out. Lastly this week, and honestly what I might be the most excited about, is this little image that dropped a couple days ago. Looks like we might be getting a remake / remaster or re-release of Star Ocean Second Story. Now, for those of you who may not be aware, who just aren't insane JRPG junkies like me, Star Ocean is a fantastic series by developer Tri-Ace. Basically, it's kind of like if Star Trek were a JRPG. Totally awesome. I love both those things. Second Story was the second installment, and it came out on the original PlayStation 1998. I think 98, maybe 97, but I think 98. Lots of people would say that's the best of the series. I might personally give that till the end of time on PS2, but either way, Star Ocean fucking rules. And seeing this pop up on Square Enix's website yesterday made many people understandably very excited. Now, to bring everybody back down to earth, I mean, it's likely just going to be a port of the original PSP port from 2008, but still, pretty fucking cool. I would love the way to play it on my Switch that doesn't require the use of a PSP emulator, and if that way is like $20, fuck yeah. Moving on for our main story tonight, I'm afraid we must address the Final Fantasy XVI demo. Guys, I regret to inform you that I may have been incorrect about Final Fantasy XVI. I was relatively sure, instead of an RPG, we were going to get some sort of hollowed out, cliche-ridden, anemic narrative stretched around a flashy but ultimately mediocre combat system. I didn't think there was a chance that this would feel like an RPG or even begin to tell a story I would be remotely interested in. So let it never be said that I am afraid to admit when I'm wrong, because I think I might have been wrong. I just finished playing the demo and pretty sure that it was fucking sick. Let's discuss. So as many of you know, I have been quite far from anything that you'd call a fan of most modern RPGs, especially Final Fantasy RPGs. I liked 14, but that's really an MMO, so it doesn't count. I thought 15 was a C-, maybe a C if I'm being generous, and let's not even talk about the so-called FF7 remake. The last one I really liked in the series was 12. That was the last one that I thought really felt anything like how, in my opinion, a Final Fantasy game was supposed to feel. Until now. Now, I'm not sure how, maybe it has something to do with like a return to a more classic medieval setting, but this demo actually felt a little Final Fantasy to me. Not a roaring bonfire of Final Fantasy vibes, mind you, but a little flicker, an ember of Final Fantasy feels that made me think, if it's just given a little bit more fuel, maybe this could rekindle the vibes for the whole game. Now, I couldn't believe it myself, so if you're sitting there listening to this being like, what? I understand, I feel you. But there I was, just starting the prologue section of the demo thinking to myself, holy shit, wait, is this good? To be clear, the beginning of the demo itself is not good at all. It's clunky, laborious, uninteresting, pretty much everything that I was suspecting the entire game was going to be. With stupid brooding Clive looking like a reject from a 90s metal band. Not great. I mean, the first thing that you're actually asked to do, like to control, is pressing triangle to shoot fireballs from some huge bird in a silly arcade dream sequence. I was almost done with it, like right there. I almost put that motherfucker down and walked away. But I didn't. I kept playing and was actually glad that I did. After you get through the goofy opening, the perspective shifts to Clive's youth. I think he's supposed to be like 15 or something. This is where shit finally gets popping. It's almost maddening the apparent ease with which Square Enix made so many of the cast of characters you meet here seem actually interesting and as though they have real depth that exists in a real world with consequences and sincere stories to tell. And this is just a simple little castle town like the kind you'd find in any regular Final Fantasy game, meaning any Final Fantasy up to like 10, but it actually feels like a Final Fantasy location, if that makes any sense. If it was this easy, what the fuck have you guys been doing this whole time? What the hell? Somehow, Square Enix manages to take the personality of people and locations in this small little bit of Rosaria you're given to explore and blend them together to give everything a real sense of place and history, one that you almost never feel in games like Final Fantasy 15, even after spending 70 hours there. You know, you got Clive's father, who's cool, his mom's a bitch, he's got a little brother who's timid and vulnerable, is kind of a pussy, the boys are chill, your mentor is a Chad, and of course there's a cute dog, and so on. Even the two characters that you party with to do some combat a little later on, though your time with them is super short, they're well written enough so that even the 20 minutes you spend with them was enough for me to like care about them after they walked off screen. That's crazy. I can't remember the last time I gave the first fuck about a Final Fantasy character since, maybe 12. None of these characters' depth really extends much beyond the tropes that I just mentioned, but to have them express believable personalities at all, especially just in a demo, is suitably impressive in my opinion. Next, let's talk just a little bit about the combat. Anyone who played FF15 or even modern action games will find what's going on here pretty familiar. You lock on enemies, you chain combo attacks, mix in some ranged abilities, press the dodge button at the appropriate time, mind the parry mechanic, spam potions to heal, blah blah blah. It's all fairly well trodden ground and executed about as competently as you'd expect. For what it's worth, the controls do really feel good. What I really did like though were the items that it gives you if you choose story difficulty instead of action. I didn't use the auto evade trinket, but I did use the one that gives you longer time to dodge and the other that turns just button mashing square into actual combo moves. And it was pretty awesome. I was knocking bitches around easily enough so that I didn't get frustrated, but not so easily that I could just ignore the whole combat system entirely. Now, I'm sure many people, especially action game fans and fans of whatever you want to call this new type of Final Fantasy combat, will disagree, or at least prefer the higher difficulty options that are available. But for me, if you're going to force me to deal with this kind of nonsense and not give me a turn-based battle system, this is how to do it. This is how to placate me. Just make it so it's not frustrating the fucking balls off of me, and we can get along. Lastly, a few words about the story. Now, since the demo only covers a few snippets of the first 2 hours of the game or so, of course I can't say anything with any real certainty, but from the bits that were shown, I was really impressed. It's super dark, and I don't mean like you see some blood and someone says mean stuff dark. I mean like fucking dark. And while I don't subscribe to the belief that a narrative necessarily has to be dark to explore, sincere pathos or unique or interesting emotional arcs, in the case of Final Fantasy, it definitely fucking helps. I like that the devs are showing a willingness to tell real stories with all the grit, heartbreak, scarring traumas that make any good narrative feel real. That's why people always laud shit like Game of Thrones so much. Not because of all the sex and ultraviolence, though, of course, all that shit rules, but because sometimes you need that shit for something to feel real, because real life just oftentimes is that fucked up, and to tell a good story, sometimes you gotta include shit like that. For all Final Fantasy XVI seems intent on blowing the audience away with just absurd, over-the-top spectacle, I actually found that the best moments are the small ones, the intimate ones. That's when I really became engaged with these characters and the world they inhabit, and when it really started to come to life for me. On the other hand, the more spectacle a scene was instilled with, the more bored I became, the more I found myself rolling my eyes. Like, I can't count the number of times that we've all seen diamond dust rendered in increasingly higher pixel counts, or seen Ifrit throw huge flaming boulders around. I mean, that shit's still cool, of course, but at this point, it's starting to just bore me. Give me characters with real problems and real personalities, living in a brutal world with real consequences, and describe that shit in an unflinching, vivid way, and I think you'll find you no longer even need monsters the size of buildings to get people to enjoy it. Amazing, right? And shockingly, at least for now, seems like that's what Square Enix has done this time. Holy shit. Alright, that's our show. Thanks so much for watching and chilling with us tonight. We love you today. We love you all the fucking way. Did any of y'all play this yet? If so, what do you think? Am I way off base here? Am I being fucking crazy? Am I slobbing too much Square Enix knob? Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll be back next week to talk some more shit. Or be tentatively excited, as the case may be.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. What? Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I